Alright guys, deadline day is rapidly approaching and we've got so much to go through in today's video. With the amount of transfer speculation stories going around the EFL right now, we won't be able to cover it all in today's video, but I'll try my best to round up all the main stories going around right now. Anything else that we do leave off in today's video, get it in the comments down below. What do you think your club still has to do between now and deadline day? But without any further ado, let's just jump in. So we've had confirmation of Sheffield United signing Danny Ings on a free transfer. We knew that Ings would likely be dropping down to the Championship, and while a few teams were interested, it is Sheffield United who have won the race to sign him. With this signing, whether or not it's a success, I think it all comes down to how durable is Ings going to be in the Championship these days. You know, he's 33 years old, not played a great deal of football recently. Last season in the Premier League, only played 274 minutes. The season before, only played 392 minutes. So, undoubtedly still going to be a sharp shooter and good in and around the box, but how many consistent minutes can they get out of him? We'll have to wait and see. And we've also seen Sheffield United completing the signing of Milwall defender Japhet Tanganga. This one had been on the cards for quite some time, but the Blades have got this deal over the line ahead of the weekend. And ultimately, it was a position that they badly needed to strengthen. Tanganga, who's comfortable at playing as a centre-half or right-back. Defensively, I think he is one of the best in the Championship. And I feel like this could be a move which suits all parties, really, because Millwall have got a really good fee for him. With add-ons included, it could rise to around £10 million. And like we've mentioned a few times on the channel over the summer, he did have a release clause in his contract of just over 1 million, about 1.2 million, but that could only be triggered by Premier League clubs. So the fact that Millwall have made a significant profit on him, Sheffield United to get in a very good defender, yeah, that could suit both parties there. We've seen the experienced Matt Targett leaving Newcastle on loan to join Middlesbrough for the season. That one had been rumoured for quite a while as well, so interested to see how he gets on. Finally got an end to the Lewis Travis situation. He has rejoined John Eustace and joined Derby County. This one had been rumbling on all summer, hadn't it? In the end, Blackburn have secured a reasonable fee for their captain, a deal rising to around 3 million with add-ons. They've also got a sell-on as part of the deal as well. Ultimately, Blackburn were pushed into a bit of a corner with this one because the player was in the final year of his contract. He made it clear that he wasn't going to be extending that deal, so it was either going to be this summer or they run the risk of losing him next year for nothing. For Derby, I think they're getting a very competitive midfielder for this level and someone who obviously clearly enjoyed working under John Eustace as well. Scotland fullback Max Johnston has also completed his move to Derby County. He had been a target for the Rams all summer long. They had a couple of bids knocked back, but finally were successful with their third bid. No real surprise to see Southampton defender Armel Bella-Kotchap going out on loan for the season. He's joined Hellas Veronas on a season-long loan deal. One of the most random transfers we've seen is Blackburn midfielder John Buckley joining Saudi Arabian side Al Khaloud, who are currently managed by former Oxford United boss Des Buckingham. He's joined the Saudi side for an undisclosed fee. Chris Mentham is back in the Championship. He signed for West Brom on a permanent basis. I think I like the look of that deal. The Baggies have obviously worked quite hard in strengthening those defensive options, already bringing in Nat Phillips, George Campbell, Christian Bielik as well earlier in the window. Mentham, who performed really well for Sunderland last season, still just 27 years old as well, ticks a lot of boxes, that one. But as of recording, those are the latest deals which have gone through in the Championship. Now, without any further ado, let's jump into the rumours. And we're going to have to start out with this Marcelino Núñez story, because where on earth has this come from? But the midfielder is set to make the controversial switch from Norwich to Ipswich Town. A deal is agreed with Ipswich, the overall package being worth 10 million. That's a 7.5 million upfront fee that the Tractor Boys will be paying, and then another 2.5 million which could follow in add-ons as well. Now, from a Norwich perspective, they may be in a bit of a tough situation with this one because Núñez is in the last year of his contract with the club, and so this is potentially prime time for them to sell. But for it to be Ipswich, the buying club, and it seems like this has all happened so quickly as well. The story sort of came out of nowhere the other day and seems to be really progressing now as of recording. Now, we knew that Ipswich were going to be in the market for at least one other midfielder after losing out on Hayden Hackney. They were in need of someone who could progress the ball up the pitch, chip in with a few goals from midfield, and Núñez does fit that sort of profile. But what on earth is the reaction going to be like to Núñez when he goes back to Carrow Road wearing an Ipswich shirt? Did not see this deal coming absolutely from anywhere, but there we go. Ipswich and Norwich fans, what's your reaction to that one? And the spending won't stop there for Ipswich Town, as they're also been linked with a move for Norwegian teenager Sindre Waller Eagerly, with reports from Europe claiming that a potential £17 million bid could be in the pipeline, so we could be talking about a record deal here for the Championship. Now, Ipswich clearly see a lot of potential in the Norwegian youngster. He's got a good track record in the Danish Super League, getting 30 appearances in the Danish top flight, got 8 goals and 6 assists, still very young and raw, can play anywhere across the forward line but seems most comfortable playing on that right hand side, which is interesting given they've just signed Casey McAteer with the prospect of playing in that position, you'd think. From everything we're getting coming out of Ipswich right now though, seems like they're going to be incredibly busy between now and the end of the window. And Ipswich also looks set to complete a deal for West Brom fullback Darnell Furlong, this one costing them in the region of £4 million. I've got to say, losing any player this late in the window is not ideal for any Championship club, but getting that sort of fee for a player who's going to turn 30 next month, or the month after I should say, he turns 30 in October, that's still decent business from West Brom there. It does feel like the Championship market especially has just gone silly this summer with the sort of money being thrown about. But Ipswich need reinforcements in that position and they're going after Furlong. It's amazing how they could now field an entire back four and goalkeeper who used to play for West Brom. Ipswich, can't they? But a deal I don't think West Brom fans will be too keen on is selling Tom Fellows to Southampton. The Saints have agreed a package with West Brom in the region of just £10 million. That feels like a really good deal for Southampton, especially considering all the interest in Fellows all summer. Been plenty of Premier League sides sniffing around going back to January. I believe there was that bid from Everton or a couple that was certainly worth more than £10 million at the time, so the fact that they're sanctioning this sort of deal now is maybe a bit of a puzzling one. Fellows was one of the top chance creators in the Championship last season, got 4 goals and 14 assists. It's a shame really because I think that current West Brom forward line has a really nice balance to it, with Fellows off the right, Price in the number 10, Johnson off the left hand side, and then you've got someone like a Hegebo running in behind. Only 22 years old as well. I think that one's a really good deal for Southampton, who we know have plenty of money to play around with between now and the end of the window following that Tyler Diblin sale. And Southampton will have a lot of money to play around with when this deal goes through. Mateus Fernandes does appear to be on his way out of the club to sign for West Ham, with a package being agreed with the Hammers of over £40 million. We knew that Southampton were always going to be holding out for a really big fee this summer in order to sanction that sort of deal. And after plenty of Premier League clubs had registered an interest, it looks like West Ham could get their man. It's been an absolutely terrible start to the season for the Hammers, who are badly in need of a few reinforcements in a few key positions, and for their sake they'll be hoping that Fernandes can hit the ground running. A shame from a neutral's point of view, because I would have loved to have seen Fernandes in a full season in the Championship, but I think a move back to the Premier League or to a top European league was always very likely this summer. But for Southampton to balance out the loss of Fernandes, they've also got Finn Azaz on his way to sign for the club, with a package being agreed with Middlesbrough in the region of £15 million. Now Azaz over these last couple of years in the Championship has been one of the most productive players at this level. He's got 46 goal contributions in 93 games at this level. He's an absolute output machine, got double figures last season for both goals and assists, and will be a real blow for Borough to lose him at this stage of the window. For most of this summer, and to be fair, we have seen a few lucrative sales from Borough already. You know, they got good money for Rav Vandenberg and Josh Coburn, but for the most of this summer, we've always assumed that it would be Hayden Hackney as the sort of big money sale, but it looks like it's going to be Azaz that's going to be making them the big bucks when he moves to Southampton. Birmingham have expressed an interest in signing Celtic winger Hyung-Jun Jan. Now, this would be an interesting one. It still feels like Blues are after another option that can play off that right-hand side. The Yankee was a player who was of interest to Norwich City earlier in the window, but they seem to drop their interest eventually. From a Celtic perspective, this move seems like it could still be quite dynamic between now and the end of the window. They're yet to sanction any sort of deal and say that he's definitely free to leave, but that could certainly happen between now and the end of the window, and it's thought that Birmingham are keen on a permanent deal there. And we had quite a significant update on the future of Milan van Ewijk and his potential deal with Wolfsburg, which we spoke about on last time's transfer rumour roundup video. Now, at the time, it was reported that a deal was in place between Coventry and Wolfsburg for around about £10 million. However, that deal has since stalled, and as of recording right now, looks incredibly unlikely. So with that deal falling through, looks like he could be set to stay at Coventry for the season, and that would be a huge boost to their promotion chances. Obviously, they're already quite well stocked in that department. Obviously, they've got Kane Kessler-Hayden still to integrate into the starting 11 somewhere as well, but having both of those players as options off that right-hand side, yeah, they're looking stacked in that position, especially if he does does stay. We've had all sorts of twists and turns over the past few days with Leicester City playmaker Bilal El Khanous. Now, at one stage it looked like a move to Crystal Palace was almost nailed on. However, that move has since collapsed, and Leicester are in a bit of a sweeter spot right now in terms of their PSR concerns following the recent sales of Casey McAteer and James Justin. Financially, they're no longer as sort of obligated to cash in on a big asset like El Khanous as they were maybe a few weeks ago. But that's not to say that he's going to be staying at Leicester, because there's still plenty of interest in him from a few clubs in the Premier League. We know about Leeds' interest. Tottenham have been linked as well. Also interest coming from clubs in Saudi Arabia. From Leicester's perspective, it's been reported that that could be their preferred option out of all this because they get a bit more money out of those clubs in Saudi. But from El Khanous' perspective, he wants to stick around and play in the Premier League, it would seem. Now, going off some recent reports, there does seem to be a bit of tension between the player and club as well, with the player pushing for a move right now. He doesn't see his long-term future at Leicester. But then equally, we've had Cifuentes recently coming out and saying that he's available for selection tomorrow against Birmingham. So let's wait and see what happens with that situation. Given the sales that Leicester have made recently, though, it has been reported that it would take about 35 million to get him out this summer. Another player who could potentially leave Leicester between now and the end of the window is defender Wout Faes, with Wolfsburg interested in the defender. Wolfsburg have done plenty of their shopping this summer in the Championship, haven't they? We've seen a few deals fall through, but would be hopeful of getting this sort of deal over the line. It looks like Milwall have a deal in place for West Brom defender Caleb Taylor. He had been an option and target for Millwall for quite some time, and following the sale of Japhet Tanganga, they've obviously got quite a bit of money to invest into this position. Did very well while out on loan in League One with Wickham last season. I think he'll be a good fit for them at Millwall. And another option on the table for Millwall right now is forward Yusuf Arabi. So Millwall still keen on strengthening their forward department between now and the end of the window, and this one's come from Fabrizio Romano. Both Millwall and Genk have come in with similar bids of around about 4.3 million, and it seems like the player has the choice of which club he wants to sign for. So let's see what happens with that one over these next few days. Sheffield United are interested in a deal for Luton Town playmaker Tahith Chong. Now, there has been a bit of interest in Chong all summer long. I remember earlier on in the window there were a few murmurings that North End were interested as well, but that interest all seemed to go quiet. He did pick up an injury in pre-season and subsequently hasn't featured for Luton in League One so far this season, but he is an option being explored by Sheffield United right now. Chong's someone who blows very hot and cold, doesn't he? Last season was a really poor one by his own standards, but you can make the argument for literally anyone in that Luton squad, and we've seen Luton players leaving this summer and have gone on to do well elsewhere. You know, Colton Morris has done really well since signing for Derby, Thomas Kaminski for Charlton, etc, etc. So in a new environment, I think he could still be a very effective player at this level. Would depend on the money that Luton would be asking for, whether or not that'd be a good deal though. QPR have had a bid rejected for Southampton defender Ronnie Edwards after a good loan spell at Loftus Road last season. It is thought that Southampton want to keep the 22-year-old at the club, although every player obviously has their price. He has featured in 3 matches for the Saints so far this season, twice in the League Cup, made 1 appearance in the Championship as well. Clearly someone that's very highly rated at QPR after that loan spell. Let's wait and see if they go in with a revised offer. Both Swansea and Wrexham are thought to be interested in Montreal forward Sanusi Ibrahim, but it's been reported that Swansea are leading the race to sign the forward. The striker is said to be pushing for a deal to the Championship, and as a result has been frozen out of the picture at Montreal, and it's been said by Footy Insider that he'd be available for a nominal fee. Now, it has to be said, his goal record in the United States isn't amazing. Only 13 goals he scored in 91 MLS appearances, albeit a chunk of those games will have come from the bench. Interested to see if Swansea do go ahead with that one. And another striker option under consideration by Swansea is Celtic's Adam Idah. This one would be an interesting one, obviously formerly of Norwich City. We have seen him in the Championship previously. When Norwich originally sold him to Celtic, I did think that the Canaries managed to get a really decent fee for the player that Idah was at the time. I think Celtic paid somewhere in the region of about 9 million, didn't they? Since that point, he's sort of been in and out of the starting 11 at Celtic. He did score 20 goals across all competitions last season, to be fair to him. But from his time at Norwich City previously, I don't know, he was always a little bit hit and miss, but he was still quite young and developing at that time, wasn't he? Right now, I would be surprised if Celtic were able to recoup that original fee that they paid for him, but let's wait and see what that Swansea interest comes to. But there you guys have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. Loads going on in the Championship right now, like I say, so do get any extra info in the comments down below that we missed off in today's video. As always though, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.